Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. Some of you have asked whether or not my family is supportive of me for the work that I do, and I have to say, yes, they all have been very supportive of me. My poor husband, I often joke and say he didn't know what he was getting himself into when he married me, but he's learned through the years to embrace what I do as a gift from God. We follow the same Catholic religion. Of course, I'm a spiritualist also, which he is not. He is devoutly Roman Catholic. Um, but yes, he does embrace and accept what I do because he has seen firsthand, and heard the information that comes in and, has been present when I've done and comforted some people through this gift that I have from God. So he is very supportive. My children have learned and grown up with it, so they also accept it and embrace it. And my family, it's been in my family for many years, generational. So it is something that wasn't unfamiliar to them when I completely came out, especially. A lot of my relatives who are no longer with us knew that I did this from a very young age, or that I had this ability. I wasn't doing it like I am doing it now. I always say I completely came out probably about 15 years ago, 16 years ago. But I'd say for the past 35 years, I've been doing readings, but in the closet. I always say I came out of the closet, at a certain point in my life. I was busy having children, raising children. I always worked. So and I say to people, sometimes a lot of my students will say, well, I want to come to some of these classes and I want to come faithfully Thursday night, when you have these classes, or Wednesday night when I run them down the Jersey Shore, and they can't because their child is sick or something's going on at home. And I always say you have to prioritize family first, and that's something I always tried to do. I always tried to make sure that family came first. There were times in my life when I would reach out and help others, and sometimes it would be time away from my family because I would be busy helping someone else. But I think it helped them just become um, more passionate adults as far as my children are concerned. All three of my children, my sons, are very compassionate people, and that's important. And they don't turn their head when they see somebody who needs something. They always reach a hand out and try to help. So I like to think that I helped in some small way help them become very compassionate people. I think some of us are just born with a greater compassion than others, and going through life, we embrace that a little more. So for me personally, my family has been very supportive of me, and I'm grateful for that. Very, very grateful for that. We've had some sometimes through the years where you know we've gone on cruises, and normally in cruises it's never my intention to do readings, but there's always a story that my sons talk about when we were on one of the islands. It was my husband and two of my three sons, my two younger boys. They were both adults, and we got in a taxi cab, and the man who was driving the taxi, it was in Mexico, and he was taking us to some beach somewhere in Mexico, and all of a sudden this energy just showed themselves. It was this taxi cab driver's mother, who had recently passed in spirit, and wanted him to know that the twins, his two children, were with her in spirit, and wanted him to know that. And I just started to ask this taxi cab driver, who spoke pretty good English. I asked him if he understood twins and that were with his mother on the other side. And to make a long story short, we pulled over to the side of the road, and for an hour this man, cried, and I told him all about his children in spirit and how they were, and his mother, and he was just blown away. And we wound up going to his house, to his home, and I met his family, and he showed me where he lived, and he was just so grateful that that his children came through, and blah blah blah. So we never made it to the beach that day. So they often talk about the story where we went to Mexico and we never got to see this beach because the spirit started to talk to mom. So we laugh about it today, but there have been times where it interrupted family life. In this case, family vacation a little bit. But when it's all said and done, they were grateful, and they were happy, and they got to see their mother, bring some peace and comfort. So that's never a bad thing. That's a good thing. So my family, I'm very blessed to say that my family is very supportive. I know there are, some of my colleagues out there whose families have not been very supportive, and I feel bad for them, and usually they're not supportive because, they get into the Bible, the families get into the Bible and they say it's against the Bible, it's against the teachings of God. And again, I say, if you really get into the Bible, mediumship is very strong all throughout the Bible. And as long as you're doing this in a way, it's in the Old Testament and the New Testament, and as long as you're doing it in a way that's credible and helping people, I never believe for a minute that God isn't happy with this, and it's a God-given gift, so why shouldn't we learn to embrace it and use it to the best that we can, okay? So I hope that answers your question, and as always, I leave you in God's love and light.